Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for the Paradise Village Parkway, Cactus Road to Tatum Boulevard public meeting. We've got a great group of people here today to talk to you about this proposal and get your input. Community input is really important because we can't be everywhere, and this is your community where you live. As with all of our meetings, we do offer this in Spanish. If you prefer to listen in Spanish, you can hear the entire meeting being interpreted by our wonderful interpreter, who I'd like to have introduce himself, Mr. Mario Barajas.
Thank you, Heather, for that introduction. Like Heather mentioned, my name is Mario Barajas. I'm going to be serving as today's Spanish interpreter. I'd like to now introduce myself to our Spanish-speaking audience and review what you're seeing on the screen as far as how to sign on with the Spanish speakers, how to sign on to the Spanish line so that they can listen to the interpretation. Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Mario Barajas y voy a estar sirviendo como intérprete a los de habla hispana. Quisiera recordarles, si es que desean escuchar la interpretación en español, pueden seguir las instrucciones que están anotadas ahí en su pantalla. Desde su teléfono, pueden marcar el teléfono indicado ahí, el 602-534-1000. Luego va a poner el número de reunión que viene siendo 57271 y luego va a oprimir el signo de número, o sea, el pound. Van a estar anotadas las instrucciones en el chat en unos cuantos segundos si acaso desaparece esta pantalla. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you, Mario. With that, I'd like to go ahead and ask our panelists to introduce themselves in the order their names appear here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Granger. I'm the Street Transportation Assistant Director.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ruben Lawley. I'm a Deputy Director for Design and Construction Management in the Street Transportation Department.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carl Langford. I'm one of the traffic engineering supervisors here at the city.
Good evening. I'm Marielle Brown, the project manager for this project.
Thank you, panelists. With that, I'd like to go through our agenda tonight. We're going to introduce this project and the project area. We're going to share what the proposed changes might be. And then most importantly, in gold, we have getting your community perspective with questions and comments. We did have some people submit comments. I plan to read those into the record if we have time. We had a couple of people signed up who requested to speak, and we'll give them an opportunity as well. With the next slide, we'll have just a little tutorial for those of you who may not have used WebEx before or participated in one of our meetings. The main thing you want to pay attention to is that diagonal arrow that points to the chat feature, signified by the little bubble. That will enable you to see the chat or the Q&A function. So if you'd like to communicate with the panelists here, on really, really busy meetings, we just tell you to use the chat function for comments you want the project team to review later. Use Q&A to ask us a question, and I'll try to get to all of those tonight. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Andy Granger.
Thank you, Heather. I just want to say thank you to all of you for joining us tonight for this project. We are here to obtain your community input on the potential installation of bike lanes and potential restriping of travel lanes for two separate segments of Paradise Village Parkway. This project stems from a scheduled roadway repavement project scheduled for later this year on a portion of this project, which gives us the opportunity to potentially add additional bike lanes in the area. However, we would like to understand citizen support or concerns for the initiative on both of the sections before we move forward. With that said, I will turn it over to Marielle Brown, our project manager, to provide more detail on the project.
Thank you, Andy, for that introduction, and thank you to Heather for hosting and to Mario for interpreting. I'm Marielle Brown. I'm the project manager for this project, and I'm really excited to talk about the project tonight, or the proposal tonight. So as Andy said, we do have an upcoming pavement project on Paradise Village Parkway from Tatum Boulevard to Tatum Boulevard. That's the eastern section of Paradise Village Parkway. Because we will have the striping crews out there, we also have the opportunity to make some striping changes to Paradise Village Parkway in the southwestern section from Cactus Road, the western intersection with Cactus Road, to Tatum Boulevard. And that's the section in yellow on the map in front of you, whereas the section that will get pavement is in red. So I'm going to go over the existing striping and what the proposals are. But first, tonight we're here on June 17th to host this public meeting and to get your perspective on what works best for your community. We're also launching a survey tonight. It will be on the project website. It's the same project website that you used to sign up for the meeting. We launch it during the public meeting, so there's a chance for people to really see what the project is about before they take the survey. So that will be going live tonight. And it will be open through July 6th. So please take the survey. Please encourage your neighbors to take the survey. We really want to hear from the community. After we have gotten that feedback, that will help to inform the decision, and we'll share that with you in summer of 2025. And then, as Andy said, there is a planned pavement project, and we anticipate that planned pavement project will happen in fall of 2025. We will share the striping decision before that pavement project goes forward. So this is part of our Complete Streets program. Since 2017, the City of Phoenix has had a Complete Streets policy that requires us to consider everyone using the street when we design them. So whether you're driving, walking, biking, or taking transit, we really strive to design our streets for everyone. And the goal is to create a network of connected streets so that people have options and they can choose how to get around in a safe and enjoyable way. When we look at these proposals that are aligned with pavement projects, it really starts with the pavement projects themselves. The city does a citywide assessment of our pavement conditions to prioritize where it's most important to do pavement upgrades or pavement projects. After we have that list of planned pavement projects, we then do a complete streets review to look at what are the opportunities to update the striping on the street, to bring it in line with our current standards and to add more transportation options. After looking at that initial review, we do a more detailed traffic engineering review to really find out what's possible, what would the congestion impacts be, what would the parking impacts be, and does the proposal really fit within the existing curbs? And then once we make sure that it's feasible, we bring it out to you, the community, to hear, does it work for your community? So that's the stage we're in tonight. We've done the internal review. We'll be sharing the results with you. And we're really asking for your input on what works best for your community. So when we're thinking about bike infrastructure specifically, we always think about who's going to be the most likely to use it. So when we look at streets that don't have a bike lane, or maybe they only have a bike lane near very high-speed traffic, that's typically the most assertive bike riders are comfortable using that. But then we have a larger group of the population who's more casual, the people who do bike but are more interested in bike lanes that are on slower streets, or maybe bike lanes that have buffers to separate them from the traffic. And then when we think about protected bike lanes or separated paths, that's really anyone who's interested in riding a bike might be interested in using that kind of facility. So it's just something to think about when we show the options, who might be interested in using the street. And so with that, I'll start sharing the options. So we're going to talk about the southwest section first, and that's that section from Cactus Road, the western intersection, to the southern intersection of Paradise Village Parkway and Tatum Boulevard. And it's highlighted in yellow in that map. And so right now, what's out there now is a one driving lane in each direction with a center turn lane. And there is some parking on the south side of the street. And so the option A for this project is straightforward. we would be making no changes. This section does not have a pavement project planned, so it would literally be no changes to the street for option A. And this shows what the existing intersections are for option A, which again is making no changes, maintaining the turn lanes. And then option B for this section is adding buffered bike lanes. So the existing driving lanes are pretty wide, and there is room to put in buffered bike lanes, but it would require removing that parking on the southern side of the street. And this shows what the intersections would be for making those changes to add buffered bike lanes. I do want to note that we would still have room for the left turn lanes with the bike lanes going into the eastern section of Paradise Village Parkway. There would be one fewer traffic lane at the intersection, and that's really tied to option B for the eastern section of Paradise Village Parkway, and I'll get to that in a minute. So when we look at these proposed changes, we wouldn't anticipate any congestion impacts because we're not changing the number of traffic lanes. So we're still going to have the same number of lanes and the same number of turn lanes at the intersections. However, it will have some parking impacts, and there will be reduced parking on the south side of the street. One of the advantages of narrowing driving lanes visually by adding bike lanes is that it can reduce speeding and for cars that are going over the speed limit. And so this slide shows what those parking impacts would be. The red lines show where there's existing no parking in option A. So you can see on the north side of the street, there is no parking. On the south side of the street, there is parking in front of two properties right now. So we would be removing that in the proposed option B. And then option B is pretty straightforward. There would be no parking on the street. We did conduct an observation of the existing parking. We had staff go out and observe the existing parking usage on Paradise Village Parkway. What we found, looking at 3 separate times throughout the day, morning, kind of around lunchtime, and then evening, was that there were 3 to 5 passenger cars using those on-street spaces. And of course, this is just one, quick point in time. And that's why we do community outreach, so we can hear from you, because you see the street much more than we can see the street. And so here's a quick summary of the proposed changes. Option A is what's existing, that 1 lane in each direction with a center turn lane. And then option B is the same layout, but with buffered bike lanes and some parking removed. And that takes us to the eastern section. So we have option A again for the eastern section, and this is a section from Tatum Boulevard to Tatum Boulevard, so the south section or the south intersection of Tatum to the north intersection of Tatum. Right now it's 2 lanes in each direction, and so option A would be to repaint the street as it is. So there will be a pavement project, and then the crews would come back and paint what you see there right now. And then this shows the intersections that would be staying the same for option A. We have left turn lanes, and then we have 2 lanes in each direction at the intersections. Option B would be to update the street to add a center turn lane. We would have 1 lane in each direction and then buffered bike lanes. So for this option, there would be creating space for left turners. And it would also be creating space for people who are interested in bicycling. The intersections would be impacted because, as you can see at the Cactus Road and Paradise Village Parkway East intersection, we would be able to maintain that left turn lane, of course, but because there are fewer lanes in the section of street, there would be bike lanes in place of the outer lanes at the intersection. And so With that, I am going to turn it over to my colleague Carl Langford to talk about the congestion impacts and just the traffic impacts of making this change.
Thank you, Marielle. So what we want to talk about now is really as we potentially make these changes, people always ask, well, what does that do to traffic? How does that affect? So top line, will potentially narrow up some of the lanes a little bit. That helps people overall reduce speed generally and drive a little bit closer to the speed limit. The other main thing that this does is the center lane provides a dedicated left turn space. So it'll be a two-way left turn aspect. So in areas where there's driveways, side streets in the area, when you're making a left turn, rather than making that left turn from a travel lane where somebody behind you has to potentially go around or slow down and stop for you, you shift over into that two-way left turn lane to make that left turn. Statistically, they're a much safer overall design, having a 3-lane segment with 1 lane as a two-way center turn lane in the roadway. So the other item that we always get asked is, okay, well, what does this do? You're taking 2 lanes both directions and changing it down to 1. And so what we do is we look at traffic models. Traffic modeling, and really throughout the city on our city roads, traffic is impacted most by the traffic signals and how the traffic signals operate. So all the traffic signals coordinate traffic and give direction so that certain people can go at certain times and other people go at the other time to reduce the conflict. And with that, anytime you have a traffic signal, you're introducing general delay to the area. So what we did is we went out, counted the traffic, counted all the turn movements at the signals. There's 3 different signals that are affected along this segment, both the 2 Tatum and the Paradise Village Parkway, and then also the Paradise Village Parkway and Cactus intersection, the one further to the east. It's a big loop, so there's also one to the west. There's no changes there, so it doesn't affect that one. And you can see here we have what the average delay is. So that's, all the traffic that's coming into the intersection. What is their average delay? If you're coming during peak hour, you're probably saying, well, wait, my delay's longer than that. Well, you're doing peak hour. There's more traffic in the road during that time, so your delay's a little bit more. But we're looking at average delay throughout the area. And really what we're looking at is the changes from option A, which is existing, to option B, where we reduce the lanes from 2 lanes in both directions to a single lane in both directions. And with that change, really we see very little to hardly any delay at all in the intersections overall. In fact, one of the intersections gets better, one stays exactly the same, and the other in the PM adds 2 seconds. So overall, it's negligent is what we would kind of say in the traffic realm as far as impact to drivers and aspects. And a lot of that is the traffic in general for this road is relatively low. So it doesn't need the 2 lanes in both directions. You can go to the next slide. So to kind of summarize this eastern section that we have here for Tatum Boulevard, or for Paradise Village Parkway, really from Tatum to the traffic signal Tatum, the north and south. Option A is basically saying, hey, we'll come back after the pavement, paint the road exactly as what it is today. There won't be any changes to anything. Option B is really to take the 2 lanes that are one going northbound and one going southbound, convert those to a single lane and adding in a 2-way left turn lane. And then that would be the changes for this section of the project as well. So with that, we'd like to turn it back to Heather to go over the ending of the presentation.
Well, we threw a lot of information at you, but thank you very much, Marielle. Thank you, Carl. And thank you for the introduction, Andy. Marielle touched on this. We are doing the meeting tonight. We're going to have a survey open. It's actually live and available to complete right now on the website, which you'll find in the chat. The survey will be open through 11:59 on July 6th. Then we'll crunch those numbers, we'll take that information, we'll share it out to the project team, and they will make a decision later this summer so that hopefully before paving season ends in mid-October, we can get this new pavement down. So that's an ideal timeline, but it seems very doable at this point. And with that, I do have a number of people who have signed up and requested to speak. And I'm going to start with Joe C. And then after Joe C, I will call on Sal S. Joe, you are unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi there. First of all, just want to thank you all for identifying the need for a change in the infrastructure in this area with the opening or revitalization of the Paradise Valley Mall, where multiple restaurants and new businesses have already started to open. If people have been there, it's very obviously noticeable that that area is becoming very congested with car traffic. So there needs to be a need for people to have alternative ways to go to the bars, restaurants, and local businesses in that area. There's a lot of communities surrounding the area where people ride bikes recreationally. There's the Indian Bend Wash that connects to this area where there's a proposed bike lane that would connect the surrounding community to the Paradise Valley Mall in a safe way. So I think anything other than option B would be a disservice to the surrounding community. So thank you again for all your work. I hope we get some added bike lanes to that area.
Super, thank you very much, Joe. I'm going to call on Sal A, and after Sal, I'll unmute David M. So Sal, you're unmuted. Please go right ahead. All right, let me try this again, Sal. Okay, Sal, unfortunately, your unmute button disappeared. That may be a technical problem. I will open this up again and try again. Sometimes that's a problem on my end, but it's indicating that I don't have the ability to unmute you right now. Let me come back to you in just a second and I'll unmute David M. David, please go ahead. All right, same thing. We're not able to hear from you. Let me refresh again. Okay, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Let me try Pam, and be assured I'm going to come back and check on both of you again in just a moment. Pam K, please go ahead.
You hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Pam Kelly, Villas at Stone Creek Board President. I would be for option A, because we have very limited parking in our 226 unit townhouses. We are actually using for overflow Paradise Village Parkway. If you were to open the passenger doors and walk a few steps, there would be our buildings. So our parking is so limited that our vendors and sometimes our guests have to actually park in fire lanes. A couple of other things. Talking about PV, Paradise Mall, Paradise PV, which is now called PV. So in 2026, 2027, phase 2 will be finished. So I'm wondering, I'm assuming they took into consideration all of the traffic that those almost 300 units will put on the roads. And then I'm concerned because, well, looking at safety, I live on Tatum and Paradise Village Parkway South. So I'm right here at the corner, and my husband works from home, and we've lived here, I don't know, almost 18 years. And I wonder if you guys have looked at traffic accidents, because on Tatum, right here at Paradise Village Parkway South, but on Tatum, there are some really bad car accidents. And I just think that would be maybe unsafe for bike lanes, but I would be for option A. But thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Absolutely, Ms. Kelly. Thank you very much. It looks like my opportunity to call on Sal is back. So Sal, you're unmuted, and I'll invite you to please go ahead. Sal A.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Boy, I was speaking earlier, but I must have gotten disconnected. All right. Well, basically, I firmly support option A to maintain the parking And basically, we have a lot of multifamily working households and households with roommates, and we have limited parking in our complex. All right, limited parking for the residents and limited parking for visitors. So that has a great impact. It would be these individuals and families would be greatly impacted if we took away that parking. The other comment I'd like to make, an observation, I noticed that you had some statistics on there regarding your observations of the number of cars you see parked during the day. That probably doesn't take into consideration the individuals that work and throughout the day and then they park their car. Typically that's full in the evening because these individuals work all day and they park their car on the side of the street. The other thing that probably impacts everyone quite a bit too is just if there's anyone for visitors and family visiting. Okay, I mean, as it is with the limited parking inside the complex, we would greatly be hurting their ability. And considering the economy and the expense of housing and everything, I think this would be an unnecessary burden by taking away that option to park on the side street. So that's all I've got. Thank you. And I'm all for option A, to maintain the parking. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sal. I'm going to go ahead and call on David M. because I can see that I have the ability to unmute you too. Have no idea what the glitch was, but please go ahead.
Well, I'm also for option A, and the extra parking is valuable, and we made decisions on buying properties here knowing the amount of parking we would have, and that also would have a major impact. And in the evenings, again, it's pretty much at least 6 to 8 cars. But I did see, as I drive around on 68th Street near Indian School, they do a similar project, but what they do is they do a parking lane, they do a bike lane, and then they have one lane for traffic, and it works beautiful. I've seen that in Tempe. So I think it could be a way to deal with the traffic, put a bike lane in, and have one lane of traffic, which seems to be an issue. You're talking about slowing people down. Well, there's your obvious one lane each way. And then my suggestion would be probably past our entry to our complex that you go to the wider, driving lanes. And there also is a comment, there is a bike path that you can pick up on Paradise Village Parkway, and you can go through the golf course and come out on Tatum down lower and be totally safe rather than driving on the street at all. So if it's a casual bike ride, it's a much more pleasant and much safer place to drive. So again, I would hope that you could modify your thinking and come up with a plan similar to A. But again, like I said, what I did notice was successful parking lane, bike lane, and then traffic lane.
Thank you very much. At this point, Marielle, I'm hearing some support for option A. I guess my question, as somebody who sometimes crunches the data with the team and looks at it, is the second segment, the eastern segment that would connect from Tatum to Tatum, is that supported? And maybe you could put in the chat whether option A or option B works for that segment, because there's no parking changes, no parking removal at all. So if you want to signal your support or opposition to that, please go ahead and do that in the chat. I have reached the end of the people who pre-signed up to speak. So if you didn't sign up to speak and you want to speak now, then please also indicate that in the chat. I do have a couple of remarks that I'd like to read into the record and then ask the project team if they have any comments as well. Regina S. wrote, what study do you have to support less traffic lanes and more bike lanes? People rarely bike here, and as someone who uses these streets daily, a neighborhood trolley would be more appropriate for this development area. Does the project team want to comment on that at all?
I can answer that as far as the study aspects for it. So with it, a lot of the study that we do is really looking at the traffic patterns that are there. We went out, collected traffic patterns that were there existing. Somebody mentioned the development. We did take the developments. They have to do what's called a TIA, traffic impact analysis, that kind of says, hey, this is where traffic's coming to and from. We did look at their TIA and kind of added that to the volume counts that we were dealing with, specifically with the Paradise Village Parkway component to it. And it did not represent a giant increase in traffic. The volume was still very similar overall and could fit within the parameters that we had. And I believe actually the delays that we talked about were taking into account that added traffic in those locations.
Thank you, Carl. Stephen P. Wrote in saying that I don't have a question, just a comment. This needs to be on every street. Bike-friendly streets have a huge impact for a positive lifestyle, win-win. And then Kirsten B. wrote, I'm a homeowner who relies on the street parking that may be removed. Can you tell me where the online survey is located? The online survey was specified on the information page. Thank you. I'm going to post that back in the chat just for any of you that might not have seen the website. I did also check with Mario Barajas, and Mario, you do not have any Spanish language questions or comments. That hasn't changed since your note in the chat.
It's correct. No change.
Okay, thank you very much. It looks like we had a couple of people comment in. Let's see. Pam asks, have you gathered data for car accidents at Tatum Boulevard and Paradise Village Parkway South on Tatum, that there are many traffic accidents at the light?
I can address that one. So one of the things we did look at was overall the fatal and serious collisions that happened in the area. There weren't really any in this general vicinity of the project. We can obviously take a look more specifically at that intersection. There likely is collisions there that are happening, but none of them are fatal and serious that we kind of take a higher look at. So we can take a look at that and make sure that there's nothing outstanding that would change. One of the components with this, as you reduce some of the lane components at the intersection, it assigns more people to direct lanes, and generally speaking, again, driver behavior taken into account as well, generally speaking, tends to make those intersections a little bit safer when you change out the lanes as we're looking to do.
Thank you, Carl. Tim B has indicated that he would like to speak. Tim, you are experiencing the glitch that I had a minute ago. So let's see. As soon as I touch on some of these names, the little microphone button that I use to unmute you disappears. And I don't know if that's my glitch. Let's try it again. Okay, Tim B, you are unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yes. Okay, great. So I actually just, I listened to Josie's comments, and I would just actually like to, if he's been there, I do not know, but I regularly travel this area. My son regularly has biked in this area. I walk in this area. Do not believe that I am seeing what he is saying, and I'm not sure where the commentary regarding a disservice would be. Just figured as we're all just trying to give our limited perspectives here, as again, as a person who drives the street, walks the street, bikes the street, there's currently an allotment on the sidewalk. There's currently low levels of traffic. Even with the upcoming rejuvenation of PV, I have found zero changes. In fact, I'm sure they did a TIA as was discussed for that development, and there's still the existing circle around that infrastructure that is there when I travel to the Costco, when I travel to the Salad and Go, when I travel to all of these like the in and out across the street on Tatum, north of Cactus. Like this is not something that I am seeing that as a person who regularly visits this area, and therefore like I will continue to support option A and believe it's a very smart decision for the community because it does not upend those who are currently using it, who have had this in place for a very long time. And I'm not seeing any negative impacts from that development. Just thought I would try to make sure we get, equal views of experiences there. So thank you for the time.
Of course. And that's why we're here. That's why we brought this project out to the team, or out to the community. Pam has submitted another question, and since we haven't hit our time deadline, I'll go ahead and ask the team. Have you included the projected 300 units for PV Phase 2 due to Lifetime Country Club apartments? I'm not familiar with that development, but I'm sure the team is.
I can say that we looked at the traffic impact analysis that we had received. I am not able to say off the top of my head what parts of the development it had, but we did use the most recent information that we had when we conducted the analysis.
Thank you, Marielle. Kirsten says a detail the project team may not know. The villas at I can't read today. The villas at Stone Creek parking is very limited because we have strict rules that prevent us from parking in driveways per the HOA. So this limited parking is truly very, very limited. This is why we would all be so seriously impacted by this change. We need it for vendors, visitors, guests, and often residents on a regular basis. As another speaker mentioned, we purchased property with this parking in mind, so this would be significantly negative impact for us to lose the parking. And Pam added a little extra color to the comment about the upcoming development, saying that in 2026-27, it'll be completed, adding approximately 300 units, Phase 2 PV. And that sounds like that would have been subject to a traffic impact analysis submitted to the city already, if they're planning to build in 26.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to share the wrong information, but if it's planning on getting built in 26, that would have been in the TIA.
All right. I think that is everything. Looking at the chat, I'm going to ask my colleague if let's see, I didn't see anything submitted in the Q&A. So with that, do we have any final closing remarks from the team?
Just want to say thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. We'll take your input into consideration, and we will, after the survey is closed, we will plan on updating the website with how we're going to proceed.
And one thing that I neglected to mention, I think, is that this meeting was recorded and it will be posted on the project website that I've put in the chat. So there is time for you to share this with your friends and neighbors and have them weigh in as well. So we have a well-rounded perspective when we make our decisions. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this with your friends and neighbors and community. We appreciate you taking the time to participate tonight.